infants and toddlers. We also have a nursery. Things for children of all age groups out the double doors off to my right. That's children's ministry, middle school, and high school. And so first-timers, just know we have things for all of your children. We also have a welcome center. I'd like to invite you to stop by and pick up a little welcome packet we have for you, and you can fill out your name if you'd like to get some of our updates of the church or of events, or if you have a prayer request or a need. I would just pray that you would feel free to be open enough to fill that out for whatever it is. You can drop it off at the welcome desk. You can drop it off later. You can give it to one of the ushers or one of the staff. Whatever you feel comfortable with, just let God move on your heart. Also, I just want to make sure that you guys check out our website, canyonviewchurch.com, because there's a lot of things that I won't mention here today, but there's a lot of events and ministry that Canyon View offers. And so if you or someone you know could use one of those, it would be wonderful. So children, you're dismissed. Double doors on the right, all age groups, and the rest of you would check your cell phones, put them on quiet mode. We appreciate it. And but for now, take a peek at the announcements, please.
This is a good day. It's always a good day. Baptism is just one of those moments where you realize that what happens here in the water is not the extent of it. That what really happens is a spiritual thing, and that's God's in. And so you know that what's going on here is a big deal. So anytime God's involved, it's a big deal.
I had an answered prayer. I have trouble I wish wasn't there. I have asked 1,000 ways. You would take my pain away. When my world is shaking, heaven stands. When my heart is breaking, I never leave your hand. When you walked upon the earth, you healed the broken, lost and hurt. I know you hate to see me cry. One day you'll set all things right. One day you'll set all things right. When my world is shaking, heaven stands.
Whoa. Welcome, everybody. And before I get into the message, I do have something really exciting that I want to do. Is we had about 50 people go through the Gateway class last Sunday, and we had people that have made a covenant agreement and have made a commitment before God, and the others that they have made Canyon View their home church and have become members of Canyon View. And so if there's any of you that actually did the covenant agreement last Sunday or even have decided since Sunday to do that, would you please stand? Because we want to welcome you, and please keep standing. Let's give them a hand. We're gonna pray for these wonderful folks here. So Lord, we thank you for these men and women that have committed to you and to the body here to make Canyon View their home church. And Lord, I pray that you would bless them through your Spirit as you continue to nurture them and disciple them and train and equip them to grow closer to you, to develop relationships within the church that they can be encouraged by, and Lord, that you would be able to send them out to impact the world. And so, God, we thank you. We embrace them now. We welcome them into the Canyon View family with open arms and thankfulness to what you're doing in our midst. And all God's people said, amen. God bless you guys. Welcome. It's good to have you here. Oh, I'm glad I got to start on a good note. If I get emotional tonight, can I ask you in advance to forgive me? This has been a horrendous week for Jane and I, and you know, I'm quite aware that there's people in this room that the earthquake in Haiti really hasn't really impacted you that much, and I just ask for you for permission to share my heart and Jane's heart, because this is something that is very real, and our hearts are really open right now, and it's very raw of what's going on. And as unless you've been in a cave for the last week, you know that on Tuesday at 3 o'clock, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake hit Haiti, right in Port-au-Prince. And the orphanage that we've been supporting, and the orphanage that actually has our 10-year-old daughter, Gertie, is right there. And so I'm sitting in our service planning meeting where we're planning our service here. And by the way, forgive me for those of you that are here to hear the second sermon on enough. That will be next week. I just got this text message from somebody, and they said, have you heard about Haiti? They just had an earthquake. So right after the meeting, I immediately go to the internet, and I see the news that massive earthquake hit Haiti. And so the first thing, obviously, that came to my mind is what about Gertie? And what about the other kids in the orphanage? There's 130 kids in this orphanage that we're very connected with. And so there's that fear that you're hit with initially. But what comes along with that is denial. Because, you hear a 7.0 magnitude earthquake, and there's a part of you going, well, it's really not that big a deal. Earthquakes happen everywhere. But then you start seeing the news, and I'm looking at the internet, and it's just utter mass destruction. And being in Haiti back in June, we saw the conditions of Haiti as it was, that there's no infrastructure, and everything's just kind of thrown together with concrete, and to actually consider how an earthquake like that would probably just take everything out, and it has. And so we, about an hour and a half after the earthquake, fortunately, they were able to get through email a message out that all of the kids in the orphanage were not hurt. That so obviously a lot of elation that, oh, thank God the kids are fine, and obviously Gertie's fine. And but then as time went on, you start thinking about, as you see the pictures, Jane and I have just been glued to CNN and Fox News over this last few days. CNN has had unbelievable coverage in Haiti. You see that there's all of these supplies that's backlogged up at the airport, and seeming like very limited supplies is getting out to the people. When you think of 2 million people in this little community of Port-au-Prince, and very few of them are getting what they need, and you see bodies that are pulled out and of the buildings, and bodies literally just lining the streets of dead corpses. It then turned to incredible frustration of why aren't they getting the supplies to the people? And why is it taking so long? And so these last few days, Jane and I have just been trying to gather information and trying to see and watching TV to see if we can learn anything that would give us a glimmer of hope. By the way, the TV stations and the newspaper here has been incredibly supportive. And it's not my dream to be on TV, okay? And for some reason, word got out, you need to talk to Kirk Yamaguchi about Haiti. And So all the news people started calling, and we were on TV. And the main thing that I experienced in doing that is that these people really cared. And a number of you in this room have been sending us emails. We've gotten phone calls at home, messages on Facebook. Man, Jane and I are just blown away by how much you guys have expressed your love to us and your support to us. And the Stevens are here, Greg and Jessica, who are adopting from the same orphanage. They have experienced the same thing. You guys have been incredibly supportive as a family to us. So I just want you all to know, if I haven't been able to personally thank you, I want to publicly say thank you very much. You guys are awesome. So this happened on Tuesday, and you see what was happening. Started about Wednesday night. I started thinking, we need to get the kids out of there. Because if they don't get food and they don't get water, and then you know that disease is going to settle in there, because we know how horrible the government is and how inefficient it is, we just got to get the kids out of there. And you know, there's that Rambo in me. I just wanted to get in a plane and grab the kids and put them on a boat and paddle home. But obviously who am I? I couldn't do anything. And so incredibly frustrated with why aren't they getting the kids out of there? And obviously there's people that are frustrated. We have family there, and why aren't they able to get out? And so it's interesting that as we were thinking of that, I kind of started thinking, well, can't the State Department do something to give some kind of a special visa to the kids so that we can just get them out and then worry about the paperwork later? And obviously, I'm not that smart. You all know that. But it was interesting to me that as we started looking on the internet, other people were asking the same question. And that same issue was being brought up to the State Department. And I thought, well, many of you have contacted me, say, contact the congressmen, contact your senators, write to the White House. And I started doing that, and Jane started doing that, and realizing that a number of other people were doing the same thing. And so there was momentum being built that let's just get the kids out of there to save their lives. Jane saw on the news that doctors in Haiti estimate that before the earthquake, there were 400,000 orphans in Haiti. After the earthquake, they're estimating 1.2 million. I don't know if the numbers are accurate, but there is total chaos, total disarray. So we have been in contact with various people, and it's interesting that Udall's office actually called me today. And I'm talking to one of his representatives when I was sitting in a goose blind. And she told me, we got your email, we're doing what we can to get help to your daughter. And we're working with Chinese Children's Adoption International, our adoption agency, to do what we can to get your daughter out. And Jane told me that Udall is actually in the forefront in the United States of a movement to get as many of the kids that are being adopted in the process of adoption in Haiti out as quick as possible. So thank God for him. The State Department has talked about issuing what's called a humanitarian parole to these kids. And what that means is the kids can be brought out of Haiti into the United States without a visa, because there's a lot of paperwork involved to get the visas with the kids into the United States. And so be praying for that, a humanitarian parole. And they will be able to ship the kids over to the States, and the parents that are adopting can pick them up, take them home, and then obviously, like I said, process the paperwork as it goes. That would be a miracle for that to happen. Thursday, I actually had an appointment already set up to have a phone or conversation with Hal Donaldson, who's the president of Convoy of Hope. Brian McLeese, who was here when we did our One Day to Feed the World, he works for Convoy of Hope. For some reason, Brian keeps bragging about what we're doing here to Hal, and Hal has just grown to love our hearts here, and so he wanted to talk to me personally. And so he called, and we were talking, and he asked how I was doing. I said, well, admittedly, Hal, we're really struggling right now because I don't know if Brian told you, but we have a daughter in Haiti that we're in the process of adopting. And he goes, oh, my goodness, that's right. Brian mentioned that to me. And he says, is there anything I can do to help? And so here's Convoy of Hope, an international relief organization, and he has connections in D.C. and everything. And I said, Hal, I don't know if you have any connections, but we need to get word out to the State Department to get these kids out of there. And he says, there's a woman named Pam Pryor that's a friend of ours, and she's an advocate in D.C., and she knows all the people that need to be contacted for these kind of things. Send me an email of your details. I'll send it to her, and she's a God-fearing woman, and if anyone can help us, she can. So I sent Hal the email, and he did it, exactly what he said. He sent it to Pam. She called me yesterday, and she let me know, I got your email from Hal. She says, I wept when I read it, and she says, I am doing what I can here in D.C. to contact the right people to advocate for these kids. So it brings hope to us. You know, it's like I said, you go through a whole myriad of emotions, and I know many of you are in situations like an illness, of conflict in relationships, in marriages, and you know that feeling of emotions going up and down. This is a real human reaction to these kind of crises, isn't it? Well, Hal just really impressed me that I sensed in his heart that this is a guy that really has compassion. And we found this video that was just put out on the Convoy of Hope website, and we want to play this so that you hear Hal's heart of what's happening down there in Haiti.
Hello, this is Hal Donaldson with the Convoy of Hope. This is a very sober time for all of us, as we have seen the images, heard the reports coming from Haiti. For some time, Convoy of Hope has had a presence in Haiti. We feed 7,000 children every single day in that country. At the time of the disaster, our country director was in Port-au-Prince, and because we had just filled our warehouses with food and relief supplies, he was able, with the team, to respond almost immediately to the needs of desperate, hurting people. But this is not one of those disasters that you can respond to just for a matter of days or weeks. This is a disaster that's going to last months and years. But I believe major disasters mandate a major response. And as our team, through the weeks and months ahead, as we respond by providing food, medicine, and water filtration, please know this, we need your help. Our people on the ground cannot do this without your help. The need is great, and the need will continue for some time, but we need your help. And our promise to you is that we will stretch every single dollar as far as we can to meet the needs of as many people as we possibly can. Many have called asking if they can volunteer their time, if they can go to Haiti and be a part of the relief effort. That day will come, but right now our team is having to travel with armed security just to make sure that they're secure. And until we know that our volunteers are secure, we're asking people just to hold off. But for now, please give sacrificially so this relief effort, this massive relief effort, can continue so that thousands and thousands of people can receive the help they need. Thank you for caring, thank you for giving, and God bless.
The great thing is when we did One Day to Feed the World back before Thanksgiving, $53,000 was given through Canyon View that were basically paid forward for relief efforts in Haiti. And so that's an amazing thing that we have able been able to already respond in advance. And that $53,000 is multiplied 8 to 10 times in the amount of supplies they're able to buy. So, again, I'm not that smart, but to me, that's pretty good business. And so for those of you that want to continue to contribute to the relief efforts in Haiti, if God has, moved in your heart on their suffering, I just continue to encourage you, go to convoyofhope.org, go to their website, and they have a link on there that you can donate directly to them. And they will stretch your dollar and multiply it 8 to 10 times to buy the supplies they need to send to Haiti. It's number one on their priority right now. So thank God for that. Well, I want to go back to the orphanage. The latest news that we heard, initially, of course, we were elated that everyone was fine, that the structures there seemed to be intact except for some minor damage. And so we felt like at least the kids are doing okay. But we've heard news today that it's a dire situation there. They obviously having 130 kids, and also the workers in the orphanage and their families of the workers, they've been feeding them all since Tuesday, and they've run out of food and they've run out of water. And so it is a grave concern of ours how long they can go, and how long is it going to take to get relief supplies to them. And so I want to show you some pictures that were just sent to us today of the orphanage, so you can kind of get an impression of what's going on there. Now, this is a little trailer that they're putting the little kids in. And people, you probably asking the question, what's the white stuff under her nose? Well, they're doing stuff like putting toothpaste there or fingernail polish because the stench of decaying bodies is so bad there. Here we have tents that were given to the orphanage by the government, and our kids are sleeping in the tents. And it's probably about 85 degrees there, so they still need shade and they still need covering if it starts raining and so forth. Now, that used to be a walled compound with a metal gate there that's still standing. You can see on the left that the wall there has completely crumbled, and on the right you can see where it's crumbled too. Now, this is for security in Haiti, that most houses of substance have a wall around it, completely around it, for protection from thieves, and because it's just such an impoverished country. And so obviously with no walls around the compound, the kids are very vulnerable. Okay, go to the next picture. Now here we see about, 6, 7 kids in one crib because their resources are so limited. In the rooms, cribs were built into the walls. And so this is why they are limited on resources for that. There's a number of the kids with the nannies, and there's Pierre, the director. And there you see another kid with toothpaste under his nose to help with the smell. And one of the nannies helping feed the kids. This is a bridge right outside of the gate to the left, and you can see the damage on the bridge there. So with the bad infrastructure and the roads that have been damaged and so forth, that's one of the reasons why it's so hard to get supplies out, as well as when a supply truck comes, it's mass chaos if people get around the trucks to get food, to get water, and there's even been a lot of problems of like people trying to steal the stuff. And as you heard Hal talk, they have to make sure that volunteers can go down there and be safe. And so that's why they are not encouraging Americans to go down and to do any relief work right now. But we are in touch with Linda Cohn, who was the director of For His Glory Outreach, and they have a new director now, but because of Linda's love for these kids, she is still deeply invested in trying to help get those kids supplies. We had $6,000 left over from the Christmas Eve offering that we gave for benevolence for people in our church community here, and we have wired that money to Linda, and she, you guys probably don't know this, but she married Justin from Haiti that was here with her. They got married, and Justin is going to take the money. He's going to fly to DR. He's got a ticket for early next week. He's going to find a way to get to Port-au-Prince and get that money into the hands of the orphanage, and because they're out of money as well as supplies. Obviously, $6,000 isn't going to go very far, but at least we can do what we can to help. So, those of you that want to go to Haiti, I know that there's those of you, you're those Rambo types, and you want to go help, and I don't blame you, because that's burning in my heart too. The main thing that Hal told me is the first teams that they're going to send are obviously probably going to be medical personnel. So if any of you have any medical skills and you would like to go, I encourage you to pray about that, and when the time is right, we will be getting word out to people. And also, for those of you that want to go on future teams to Haiti, is to do what you need to do to start getting ready. So that means if you don't have a passport, to get going on getting a passport right away. You're going to need shots when you go there because of the disease that's going to be prevalent. So you need to talk to the county health department about getting started on your shots. And then obviously saving money so that you can get a plane ticket and go with teams as they go. So just keep that in mind. When we do send teams, we will partner with either Convoy of Hope. Our Vineyard USA has an emergency relief ministry called Mercy Response. So we will send teams with either one of them because they will already be there and have everything structured. So it's because it's chaotic as it is, and you want to go with an organization that seems to have some organization structure to make sure that it goes smoothly. So anyway, that's what's going on just on a technical side with Haiti, and I wanted to inform you all that because I know a lot of you have been asking questions, and you're very concerned, and again, we appreciate that. But as I was thinking about the earthquake in Haiti, the question that came into my mind that many of you may be asking yourselves, and maybe you've asked yourself this question before, but have never really gotten a good answer on it. I'm not going to guarantee you're going to get a good answer tonight either, but you may have asked the question, how can a loving God allow such extreme suffering in the world? If God really loved us, why in the world would he allow that to happen? And that's the question that seems to burn in many of us. I know that many in this room, you've asked that question because you may have suffered with an accident that just suddenly took the life of a loved one away from you. Others have struggled with that question because you were in a relationship and that person just suddenly turned on a dime and says, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And you're suffering with the pain of the loss of that. Others may be suffering with sickness and disease. And as you went to the doctor and he did the test and gave you the diagnosis, you're asking, God, did I do something wrong? Are you punishing me? It's so common that we ask these questions. They're real human questions. And when you watch the screen on the TV and you see the enormity of the massive destruction in Haiti, we have to ask ourselves, why? Have you asked that question? Are you awake? There's even a Christian leader national leader that